Well, mind reading is a far-off notion that most people associate with a science fiction plot. But it seems this futuristic technology is seriously being explored. We're just learning that researchers at the University of California, Berkeley are using brain scanners to identify which face someone is looking at merely from their brain activity. And that means scientists may have found a way into reading our innermost thoughts. So just how close are we to moving toward a Minority Report reality? To discuss this more, earlier I spoke with RT's Anastasia Churkina from our New York studio. I first asked her what exactly these scientists discovered.
Well, Amira, it looks like while we were still taking our time getting used to the idea that our phone calls are monitored, that every single activity we do online is traceable and accessible, science certainly hasn't been asleep and has been moving forward in terms of the capabilities it might eventually have when it comes to mind reading. And while certainly prognosis differs on when exactly this might be doable on a more public and less invasive way, certainly it looks like we may soon reach the time when we don't just have to think about what we say or do, but basically think about what we think, because several interesting reports have been coming out and discoveries in scientific leaps being made, being able to basically decode thoughts, analyzing people's brain activity. We saw a recent study come out of Yale where a group of scientists was essentially able to reconstruct faces using brain scanners that were taken while volunteers were looking at particular faces, and then by using computers and math algorithms by basically reconstructing the faces that people had previously seen. So this in itself, they say, is something that was done for the first time. The accuracy of this was roughly from 60 to 70%, but they're saying if this is the kind of research that continues to move forward, many leaps could be made in terms of being able to reconstruct memories, even dreams, and people's imagination. And certainly this seems like something of very far in the future. Analysts and experts and scientists are certainly debating that. Also, an interesting research in Kyoto was conducted where, also analyzing brain activity, people were trying to get closer and closer to being able to decipher human dreams, which certainly is also a pretty interesting type of research. Also, two-way brain communication. This is something that so far scientists were able to do with just mice, but there was an experiment conducted in the US where one scientist was able to control the motions of another one using the internet, and it wasn't very accurate. All of this is very in the first stages, but they're saying that this is the type of brain activity research that may eventually be able to lead to mind reading capabilities. And certainly the technology is not anywhere close so far to being able to do that, but we're getting first sort of glimmers into what it is that the universe might be able to do in the nearest time. But for now, Amira, you and I are okay. We're free to think whatever we want without.
We're all right. So far, we're all right, but we're getting there. There's lots of discussion, of course, over whether this technology could be a good thing or a bad thing for humanity in the long term. Is there anything being discussed at this point about, possible privacy concerns?
Well, of course, I think that applies to many different aspects of science. Of course, there's been questions throughout history on whether or not certain developments should or not be applied in this or other particular way. And this certainly continues to be a discussion already in terms of possible mind-reading capabilities, even though this is something that's very just kind of starting. Lots of questions, ethical questions, privacy questions exist in terms of where could the line be drawn when it comes to reading the thoughts of other people, how to use it for good purposes, such as brain research and helping people with certain brain disabilities and memory disabilities and so on, and maybe solving potentially crimes, but also how to make sure that this is something that's not completely intrusive. And that's something that it looks like it's just going to have to be solved on a step-by-step basis as this research continues.
So the million-dollar question is, how far are we away from seeing this technology really evolve?
Well, Amira, analysts are certainly really debating this. Some scientists are saying, well, let's give it a couple of decades. Others are saying this is not going to happen within even our lifetimes by any means, that only 1/1,000,000th of the capabilities in terms of this research has been reached. But the most popular opinion I've seen, that possibly within the next 50 years, they could definitely come a little closer to being able to decipher what we think.
Wow, well, very incredible research. RT correspondent Anastasia Churkina, thanks.